Well, this week we are finishing our fireplace that we made last week. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, off camera, I cut the 3 pieces that we'll need for the firebox for our fireplace. And what we've got is 2 pieces that are 3/4 of an inch across by 2.5 inches tall, and 1 piece that's 2 inches wide by 3/4 of an inch. Now this one we are going to be gluing so that the back is flat and then the sides come up next to it. So I've got my glue and I've got my little pieces of toothpick. Now this is the firebox to go inside the fireplace we made on the channel last Sunday. So if you missed that video, it will be linked at the end of this video. So you can go watch it first. But again, we're putting glue there and we're going to line this up. And the toothpicks just make this bond a lot stronger. Just be careful that they are going into the foam core and not out the edge. You don't want to see the tip of it on either side. And then we'll want this to dry because the next step is going to be to put a coat of paint. Now I really wish I could have gotten white foam core, but my Dollar Tree did not have white foam core, and I really do prefer buying my foam core at Dollar Tree. It's so much cheaper, and usually I have better luck with it, especially on some projects where I want to peel it, although this one we're not peeling. Line that up so that it goes inside of there. Push down with any kind of flat surface. Double check that everything is the way you want it and set it aside to dry. And once that glue is dry, I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. All right, the glue has dried on this, and what I've got is some gray craft paint. This happens to be Anita's in Rainy Day Gray. And I want to coat the black with some gray just in case it shows. It probably won't by the time we're done, if I can get the paint out. There it goes. Okay. So I'm going to paint just this part of this. Because this is where we're going to put the bricks. And this is the same paint that I plan to use to create my mortar between my bricks. So if any of this shows, I don't want it to show black. I want it to show the same color as my grout. Right. And then I'm also going to paint the top. This is our hearth that we created last week. I'm going to paint the cut edges on 3 sides. I don't need to go all the way around. And it's okay that this isn't completely flat and straight. It's going to be covered with bricks. That's our next step. Off camera, I've been, for the last hour or so, I have been watching YouTube videos and cutting many, many, many bricks. So I'm going to get all the way around. That nasty piece of hard paint out of there. So I'm going to coat this on this side. We don't need to worry about the back. You can paint it if you want to. You don't have to. You don't have to do the bottom if you don't want to. That is up to you. I'm going to let these dry. I'm not worried about doing a second coat. It doesn't have to be a nice even coat. I just don't want it black. And if this was white foam core, I wouldn't want it white either. I want it a muted color that will blend in. So when this paint is dry, we can start adding, well, we can actually start by putting this onto the bottom of the fireplace and then start adding some of our bricks. So I'll see you when the paint dries. All right, the paint is dry on here. So I'm put this on, I've centered it. I made sure I had the same gap on both sides of my fireplace. And I'm going to put glue on the bottom of this. I think I need to refill my glue bottle again. I went back and forth with myself about whether I wanted to put the fireplace onto the hearth before I add the bricks or put the bricks on first and put the fireplace over it. My fear is if I put the bricks on first, I would not be able to get through the bricks with the toothpicks. So now I'm lining this up so that it's centered side to side and so that the back side is even. I know that I'm approximately a ½ inch in. Probably should have drawn this line first. That would have probably made more sense. All right, I'm only going to do a couple of these toothpicks on camera. I'm going to do the rest off camera. Far enough. It's going in. And I cut these toothpicks a little longer than the ones I used to put the rest of the fireplace together with. So I am going to put a couple of toothpicks in on each side. I'm going to put one, try and line one up about here on each side. And then this glue needs to dry so that we don't dislodge the fireplace when we're putting the bricks down. So I'll be back when this glue dries. All right, the paint has dried on here overnight, so everything is set up. And I spent some time yesterday cutting bricks. Now these are my usual bricks cut from egg cartons. I've cut them 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch. It's not exactly in scale, but it's close enough that it looks fine. And it's an easy size to cut. And you'll need quite a few of these. So I've got this is the firebox. We're going to start with it. And I'm going to start on the back edge by spreading some glue. A larger area than I know I'm going to need. And I'm going to start with a full brick. And I'm going to line it up against the bottom. And against the edge. Then I'm going to take another one. And I'm going to just eyeball the spacing. I want just the tiniest bit of space between them. Not much, just a little. I'm going to work my way across. I've got my scissors here because I might need to trim the last one. And my bricks are not exactly all the same size. That's okay. Looks like I need about a half one. I'm going to try cutting one in half and see if that's going to fit. And I like to leave, okay, that's going to be too small. So let's just trim off a little bit. This is going to be covered up a little bit when we get it in. So it's not going to be a huge deal. Now make sure this first row is in the way you want them. Make sure they're lined up with the bottom. And then I'm going to take my toothpick and I'm going to take off any lumps of glue. After this, we'll be working more rows at a time. But this first row, I want to make sure that I have this set up before I come back. So I'll move this over just a little bit. All right. So I'm going to let this glue dry, and when this is dry, so those will stay together, stay right in place, I'll come back and we'll start working on the rest of the rows. So I'll see you then. All right, the glue is dried that I put on there, so now I'm going to work my way up. And I won't make you watch me do all of these. We'll do a row or two, and then I'll turn the camera off and I'll continue working. Probably I won't do this all in one sitting. I'll probably work on it for a while and then go do something else. I don't like to do massive quantities of these at once because they get really slippery, slidey, and then you end up with your rows of bricks not looking great. That being said, they don't have to be perfect. Now, what I like to do is start at the other end. Because you want to offset your cuts. You want to offset where your blank spaces are here. I'm going to go a little further. If I have to fill in, get a little more towards the center so it looks a little bit better. Making sure that you're always putting the side that was printed on your egg carton down, because usually that side of the egg carton is much smoother. Even if it's not printed where you're working, it's a much smoother texture and it will show up. The part that was on the inside of the egg carton looks much more like brick, which I don't have that quite trimmed enough. After a couple of rows, you'll get to the point where you can cut these pretty easily just by sight. All right, a little more glue on. And I'm going to start off this end again, kind of lining up the middle. And I will continue that all the way up, getting these a little more straight than they are there. But by the time we add the grout and add some black to look like soot, any imperfections are not really going to show. I need to be a lot more careful out on the hearth area of the fireplace than in this firebox. In the firebox, it's going to not show up. It's mainly we're looking for the texture on the top, and I want to be a lot more careful up in here than down here. So I am going to continue with this, and when I get this all bricked in, I'll come back and we'll do the sides. All right, the back is done and it has had time to dry, so it's not going to move. So I'm going to uncover my glue. So what I did, I counted how many rows of bricks I had here. There are 8. So I cut 8 blocks in half because what we've got here, I'll show you why here as soon as I get some glue on here. There's just enough space for one block, which means every other row will be a single brick, and the ones in between I can use 2 half bricks, and that means they're 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch squares, so it's going to be not even matter which direction they go. And this will be easier when you're not trying to angle it. Hopefully you can see some of what I'm doing here. And if they stick out past the front, that's okay. I'll just come back once the glue is dry and trim them off. That's not a big deal. Just be sure you alternate. So I'm going to do both sides, and when this glue dries, I'll come back and we will trim these up. And I'm probably going to go ahead and get this painted before I even start the bricks on the hearth, because I want this finished so I can know where my placement for my bricks on the bottom are going to be. So I will be back when this is done. All right, my glue has dried completely because it's the next day. So I've already trimmed this side. Let's go ahead and trim this side, because I remember some of these stuck out a little bit. And just run a pair of scissors along, making sure that you are even with this, none of them stick out. Make sure that all the pieces are off of there. And now I had to mix my paint. If you have a brick red paint in your paint stash, use that. I didn't have one, so I took some apple red and some terracotta paints, and that didn't give me quite the color I wanted, so I added some burnt umber. And I'll show you what I got. I'm gonna keep those out because nearby so that I can use those to highlight some bricks. And that's the color I got. And it looks like this when it dries. I'm going to paint all the bricks with that color, and then I will come back when I'm all done and highlight a few bricks here and there with each of those colors and a little white to give it kind of a used brick look. Now, I've got a relatively stiff brush, and I'm going to, I don't want to get paint, very much paint anyway, down in the cracks between. It's not quite a dry brush, but almost. And this is just a container I get at the dollar store. I use them in the kitchen all the time. I just sacrificed one for paint here. That way I can keep the paint good no matter how many days it takes me to get this project done. I was afraid if I used my normal, just put it on the container with the other container over it, it might dry out before I was ready, before I was done. And I'll never be able to replicate that color exactly. I should have looked for brick red paint the other day, but I didn't know I was making this when I went to the craft store the other day. I hadn't really thought it through yet. I just knew I needed foam core. So I am going to finish this. I'm going to do the sides also. And then I'm going to get some more bricks cut of a couple of different sizes. And then we will start putting bricks on our hearth. So I'll be back in a bit. All right, we're going to lay our first row of bricks. And I'm going to start against the front of the fireplace. So I drew a line. I lined my ruler up just like this. And drew a line so that I'll have a placement line all the way across. I've also cut 3 more sizes of bricks. I still have these, but I also cut a strip that's an 1/8 inch long and cut that into 1/2 inch pieces. And more 1/4 inch strips, I cut some that are 5/8 and some that are 3/8. And I folded over an 1/8 inch of each one on one end. And I'll show you what I'm going to do here. The 1/8 inch will be the depth of our top row of bricks. I am going to put some glue down with a toothpick. And we're just going to do 1 row of bricks right now because I want this row to not move as I am doing the next rows. Since this is the row everything is going to have to push up against, I want to make sure it's nice and dry. All right, so I have a strip of glue all the way across. This is a piece, this one is 5/8 of an inch by the 1/4 inch, and it's folded with an 1/8 of an inch going down at the end. I'm lining that up right against that line. So it would help if I actually put some glue down here. Trying to get this where you guys can see it. I forget to look at the camera. And we're not going to worry about the second row of bricks. We're only going to do those after. Now, it's just a matter of coming along and putting a line of bricks. Let's move this forward so that it's lined up with that. That line that I drew is just a guideline to get started. Make it a little thicker. And just leave a very small gap, really tiny. I figured this would be the most logical place to start because then we have nice full bricks here. And I've laid them out. I've did a little dry fit, and it's going to, we've got some playroom to get everything lined up in the front the way I want it. Now, is this the way somebody would lay a real brick fireplace? Not sure. I saw lots of pictures of different mortar pattern or brick patterns, and I just kind of went with one that, I made up one that kind of coordinated with those. Now I'm going to take one of the 3/8 inch pieces, and I'm going to line it up with the rest of, whoops, this guy's upside down. Why did I do that? Okay, I'm going to put that off to the side. So I've got glue on the top of it. That's better. Let's see, more glue in there now. Yeah, double check that you've got the right side up on your bricks, because the inside texture is much smoother and it will not look the same. All right. Get everything spaced the way you want it. You did not quite. You a little further. I put a little bit bigger gap in. And that's okay. Well, I'm going to adjust these off camera so I have my gaps pretty even. I'm going to let this glue dry, and when that's dry, I'll come back and show you how to continue. All right, the glue is dry, so now I'm going to, or it's dry-ish. Let's put it that way. It's dry-ish. So now I'm going to fill in this with some glue. This time I'm going to remember to go down a ways. All right, now next to this one, I'm going to need one of the short ones. Let's see. Then I'll need another one like this. I just want to get these set in place before I start making the pieces to go in between. I can see myself tipping that over. Oops, a little short one first. With the exception of this one, I'm happy with where all of them are. And now I need to get one of these and cut it as close to in half as I can. If it's not perfect, I'm not going to worry about it, because we're still going to put grout in. And once you get the grout in, it's really not, okay, I'm going to cut up a little more. It needs to be a little bit smaller than half. There we go. Let's see how this one fits. Oops. Yep, it needs a little bit more off too. And each one of these needs to be, these last little pieces, each one will need to be kind of fit in individually. I'll need to come back and work on making sure this is staying down. And all I did was I just slit the egg carton at the mark and cut about halfway. I slid about halfway through it. So now let's go ahead. I'm not going to have you watch me do the whole front. I'm just going to get part of this done so you kind of get an idea of what we're doing. And you've probably watched people do brick before like this. If you've been following my channel, I know you've seen me do things like this in the past. All right. The only big important thing here is, since this is a full brick, we're going to start with a half brick. And then we'll put another full one, and the front row is going to stick over just a little bit. I'm going to put these off to the side until I get to the end. And we know how much we need to space because we've got these spaced. So I'm going to try to make these space out about the same amount. I'm going to work my way all the way down. Then I'll do this row, starting with another full one, and work all the way down. When this glue is set up and dry, I'll come back and we'll work on the next row. Oh, and I'm going to do this end also. So I'll be back when these bricks are all in place and the glue is dried. All right, now the glue is dried for all our other pieces we've put on, and we're going to do the sides of this row of bricks that are on the top. And for that, we're using the 1/8 inch wide pieces. Now these we may have to trim because we need them to line up with the ones right above them. Put some glue in here. I'm going to start with this full one. And I'm only going to put glue down for a couple at a time. And you really want to fill the whole spot because this is a lot smaller piece. Okay, so this one I've already pre-fit to make sure it's going to fit. And slide it in and put it just as close to that one on the top as you can. We want to give the impression that it's the side of that same brick. Same thing here. And if you find that you have one that's way too long, way longer than the one above it, you'll have to trim it. So I am going to, and it also helps if some of that glue kind of seeps up on the bottom of those overhanging bricks. That's why we have them overhanging, so we can glue to the bottom of them. I think this row probably takes more glue than the whole rest of the rows. I really like to put glue in for this one. So I'm only going to make you watch me do a couple because this is going to get really old really quickly. Making sure you get them the right side. Wipe off any glue that oozes out. That's a shorter one, so I need to cut this down. I did end up having a shorter one here in the middle. I worked from the ends in on that row. So I am going to turn the camera off. I'm going to finish this row, and then when I get that done, I'll come back and we'll start the bottom row of bricks. All right, I'm taking slight creative license with the other row of bricks. So for it, I've cut 2 bricks. I cut a few extras, but I have some here that are cut 3/4 of an inch long and then scored so they'll fold 1/4 inch over. And that's what we're going to use for the bottom corners. We'll have to trim one to be 1/4 inch on each side of the score line. So I'm going to start over here. And yeah, this is probably not the right way to lay the bricks out at this pattern, but I'm making it up as I go. I just noticed that when I looked online, there were so many brick patterns. There didn't seem to be any one right way to do it. There seemed to be a lot of ways to do it, depending on, I think, how the bricklayer decided they wanted their pattern to be. And I did see a few fireplaces with hearths that were similar to what I'm doing. So I'm just spreading a row of glue here. And what I'll do is I'll start at both ends and I'll work towards the middle so that you can see how I'm starting and ending. So I've got, so there's a full brick there. Then I'll lay down. And I'll lay a couple over here and then I'll go do that other end. Then one here. That one is a little short, but that will get filled in with mortar. Your bricks are not, it's not going to show a huge amount if you're off a little bit. It's, oh, actually, no, I did not want to do that. I actually wanted a full brick around because I want to have it fold around. What am I thinking? All right, now this one, we're going to do the half part over here. And then the full brick is going to fold around. I don't know why I was thinking I wanted to cut it. When I figured this out, I just figured I'd do it this way. And then I'm going to fill the bricks in. I'm going to go around the backs, around the ends. And I'm just going to use the regular size bricks around the ends, just like we have been. I'll do one end here for you. So let's go over here. Get one end done, and then I'm going to get glue all over myself. I kind of need to get done because I've got something else going on here in a minute, so I'm kind of trying to hurry, and that's why everything is going wrong. All right. Then I'm just going to fill in. And this will be down at the floor, so it's not really going to be super noticeable. So I am going to go ahead and get these bricks quickly on and then let the glue dry completely. I'll need to put a little piece of, there's one right there, and then I'll just trim off any excess. So when these are dry, I'll come back and we can start working on the inside of the firebox. Those bricks are all on. Now if you have any that are hanging below or that hang, of these that are going over, that hang over, just use a pair of scissors and trim them off. Really simple to do. Now we're going to start working on the bricks in here, and we're only going to be putting bricks where we need to. I didn't know it's going to be really hard to see this area on camera, so there will be, I'll try to have photos on the blog post of these. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with just a little glue right in front of the fireplace opening. And make sure that you've got your firebox insert handy, because we don't need to cover the whole inside of that. All right, now I've got bricks to line up with. So I'll put a few in and then I'll hold it up to the camera where you can see it. I'm just keeping on my brick pattern by offsetting. And the one, upside down. See, I'm carrying on my pattern. And then I'm going to need approximately a half brick right there. The ones in the front will show, but once you get back into the firebox, they won't show much. All right. Hopefully you guys can see that. Now it just looks pretty cohesive there. Now, as you can see, this is not going to, you have quite a bit of space taken up by this. So we don't have to go all the way to the edges. And we don't have to go all the way to the back. And I will probably fill in some of it off camera with some of the half pieces I've got. So, now, hopefully I can put this where you can see and I can see. So we need to be about here. line this one up. Oops, come on. So that's lined up. And we're going to go a half piece here, a full piece here, offsetting the row that we just, that partial row we just put in. We want to make sure we offset that. Line the center of the bricks on this row up with the seams between the bricks, just like we always have. And it is a little more challenging working from both sides of it. And right now, that's as far as I'm going to go. I'm going to get these laid out. I'm going to go one. I'll go one more here because I've got room. Upside down. And now I'm going to start on the next row. And there's going to be a lot of, we're going to use a lot of black paint on the inside of the firebox, on the bricks on the inside, to make it look like the fireplace has been used and there's soot buildup. So if your bricks aren't perfect, it's really okay. What is it? Wooden skewer that I have here to line that one up a little bit better. All right, now so I'm going to continue this. I'm going to continue working back and forth, not worrying about getting the bricks all the way to the edges back here, up to the edges back here. And when I'm all done and the glue is dried, I'll come back and show you how it looks. And I'll be taking pictures, so those will be on the blog post. So I'll be back when this is done. All right, the bricks are all glued down and dry, and now we're going to paint. Oh, and go around, make sure everything is trimmed up, everything is where you want it. And now I am going to use some tape. I've got some masking tape here. I kind of ran it against my jeans. I just want to do a little protection on the bottom of this fireplace because I don't want to get a bunch of paint on the white paint. I did run this tape against my jeans so that hopefully it won't damage the paint that I've got in there. And I'm not worried about getting the inside of the fireplace. You know, if I get it on the inside, that's not going to matter because that's never going to show. I've got the same paint that I used the other day and a stiff brush. And once again, we're just going to very carefully, so I can do this where you guys can see it. I'm trying to keep it mainly on the tops of the bricks. If it gets down in the gray, that's okay. And you don't need a full coat. I want my bricks to look like used brick. So I'm going to go back and highlight a few bricks with some of the basic different colors, just so it gets a little variety. And I kind of want to have some of the color of the egg carton showing through, if I can, so that it doesn't get too dark. If you want it to look like a different color brick, paint yours accordingly. So I'm just going to go in, trying to be careful that I don't get too much paint onto the fireplace itself. Just keep it on the bricks. And so I'm going to go ahead and do this. Off camera, I'll finish up because we don't want to make the video too horribly long. When this paint dries, I'll come back. We'll highlight some of the bricks on the liner and on this. And once that's dry, we can add some grout. So I'll be back when this is painted and dry. All right, the paint on all the bricks is dry. So what I've done is I've put out the smallest amount I could manage to get out of the containers of all the paints we've used so far. I've got the white, the gray we used on the hearth and in here, the red, the brown, and the orangey color that I mixed to get the brick color. And I've got 5 little tiny brushes. These are the brushes that I showed you in Wednesday's video that I got from Temu. So we'll see how they work. And I love used brick. You used to see a lot more used brick than you do today. Growing up, everybody had used brick in their stuff. And I just love that look. So I'm going to take just a little bit of paint. And again, we don't want full coverage on any of these. I just want just a little bit. Do white on one of these. That's probably a little more than I wanted, so I've got that's better. Let's see, I don't have any gray yet. Should have wiped that off a little more. I think I need to have my paper towel here too. It's not quite a dry brush. It's a little more paint than a dry brush, but close to that. And then let's do one red one right here. Let's blot off a little bit. All right, and you don't want much. You want just a couple here and there. So I'll do a few over here, and then I'm going to turn the camera off and finish up off camera because it's going to be hard for me to have this where you guys can see it. So let's get a red one. Let's see. I'm trying to angle this so you guys can see. Between that and the uneven paint coat that I put on, I think it'll give a pretty good look of used brick. All right, so I'm just going to work around this and kind of figure out what I want where, and when these are dry, I'll come back and we will go to the next step. All right, my paint has all dried now, so I'm going to do an insurance coat of matte Mod Podge, and I have literally just drops of it left in this bottle. Hopefully it's fluid enough that I can brush this on. We're just going to put it on the bricks. Try not to get a whole bunch like down in the cracks between the bricks. If you do, go back with a toothpick and clear those out because you need the gap between them. But this way, once we put our mortar on, mortar, the stuff between the bricks that's in real life would be holding them in, this will keep that from staining and sticking to the top of our bricks. So I'm going to go ahead and get the hearth done, and I want this to get completely dry. So when this is completely dry, I will come back, we will mix our mortar and get done with this fireplace. So I'll be back when this is dry. All right, off camera, I mixed some more of this gray paint with some white sand to make a little bit thicker textured paint. I find I do different things different times when I do this process. This time this is how I'm doing it. I've got other videos where I have done egg carton stones or egg carton bricks, and I think sometimes I use different methods. It depends on what I'm feeling like. And I already did this one, the inset, because I wanted to make sure it was going to be the right texture. I also have paper towel, and I have a small bowl of water. So let's start putting this on. I won't make you watch me do the entire thing because it's going to take me a while. So what I'm finding is working best for me today. And that, again, that varies depending on how thick my paint is. Finding if I put it on my finger, now remember we still got the tape here to protect our fireplace, and work in a small area because you don't want to go too far, but really work it in. Being careful that you don't, pull your fireplace off of the hearth. Get this paper towel nice and damp. And I've got a couple of paper towels here. And then I'm wiping this off the surface. This is why we sealed our bricks. And we're not going to get it all off the surface. Once you get that in there, and you see it leaves mainly just in the cracks. So I'm going to go over the entire hearth, the top and the edges, inside the fireplace also. Make sure you have some of this left when you're done, and cover it up so it stays soft, it stays workable for a little bit, because we're going to need it again. We are going to need it after we glue our inset, our firebox, into our fireplace. We are going to need a little bit more of this. So I'm going to finish this up. It won't take a huge amount of time, but it's going to be hard for you guys to see exactly what I'm doing. And this probably wouldn't make very good content to just have you watch me doing this for the next, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 minutes. So when this is all in and it's dried, I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. All right, I'm satisfied with how my project looks so far. So now I'm going to take off the tape and being very careful. And any place that I've got little bits of paint that have kind of, because I put that nice coat of satin Mod Podge on this paint, it protected it. So come on. Guess I should have loosened both of them up. That one loosened up really easily, so I thought, oh, I don't need to loosen up the other side. All right. There we go. Now that's off. So now the next thing I want to do is fit this in here, make sure everything looks the way I want it to. And it is fine. So we are going to put, I've got a larger bottle of glue sitting here. I think it'll be good to use it. I'm going to put glue. I want quite a bit of glue this time. More than I would normally use on a project. Because we want this to stay put. Now, I put the glue on the wrong side. I have a partial row of bricks on the top edge where it's not really going to show. So I don't need glue on that side. I need glue on this side. The one with the full set of bricks. All right, now, yep, that's right. Press it in, wipe the glue off my fingers, cap the glue again, and make sure that that looks the way I want it to. All right, it does. Now, one thing I want to do, I'm going to use, I think my ball tool is probably going to be the best thing to use here. I'm going to take more of this gray mixture and kind of try and fill in a little bit, because there's going to be a little bit of a gap. It doesn't have to be super neat. We just want, we don't want to see light. And it's okay if it covers the bricks here, because we are going to be putting black paint over a lot of that. So I want that glue to dry so that when I go to put the black paint on the bottom and the back and that corner, it will not move the firebox. So I'm going to let this glue dry. I'm going to clean up the mess I have created, and when this dries, I'll come back and we will finish up our fireplace. All right, my glue is dry enough that I won't be moving things around, and I've got a flat-ended, kind of stiff brush. It's not very big. And now the first thing I want to do is kind of put some black in this crack where the back wall meets the floor of this. And you can put as much or as little of this as you want. If you want a brand new fireplace, you wouldn't put any in. If you want it to look like it's been used, you put more in. And I think that's about all I'm going to put in. So this will need to dry. In the meantime, I've cut a couple of pieces of paper. So let's look at those. Let's turn this over. Let's get out a little glue. I've cut a piece that is 3/8 of an inch by 4, and that's to fit right here. Your measurement might be slightly different depending on your foam core. It'll be the width of the hearth and the height of your 2 stacked pieces of foam core. What I'm going to do is just put a little bit of glue here. And what I want to do is finish off the back of this. On this project, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about finishing your work off. Because a lot of times on the videos, we talk about creating our work, creating our project, but we don't really get into finishing it off and making it look professional, making it look finished. We do a little bit, I want to talk a little bit more about that in future projects. Starting with this one, we're going to kind of talk about that. So now I have a piece of this, and this is just the medium weight cardstock. This one is 3 1/4 by 3 3/4. That's what I needed to fit here. Looks like I do need to trim that off to 3. I thought I measured it and it was going to be right. Should have cut it at 3. So I'll make an adjustment on the blog post about the size. Cut it a little big and then cut it down to fit. It's always, you can always cut off a little extra. You can't add it on once you've cut it off. All right. And then it's cut off. I measured that way off. So cut it to fit your opening, your fireplace. I just want to cover up the back. That needs just a hair off. Like I said, it's always better to cut it a little big and cut it down than to have it not be big enough to fit. That's what I need. Now I'm going to put more glue in. The back of the mantle will not be covered, but that's a very small area. If you wanted to, you could cover that before you add this piece. And I'm spreading it with my finger so that we don't have too much glue and make this piece of paper buckle. Now, if you wanted to and you had it handy, a piece of poster board would be even better here, but I don't have any handy right now. So let me do this. Get a wet wipe and wipe the glue off my finger so I don't get it all over everything. And then what I'm going to do is take this little squeegee doohickey and really squeegee this down. Press it into the glue. Now, wipe off that extra glue. And now I have the bottom. I did take just some black paint and I painted the bottom surface of this. I've got a paint pen. Make sure it's working. And I'm just going to put my initials on the bottom. You really should sign your work. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in the blog post. But that is our fireplace. I'll let this glue and the paint all dry. And when it's dry, I'll come back and we'll look at our finished fireplace. All right, so all the parts of our fireplace are dried. I do want to do a little trimming of this trim strip that I put on the back because it does out over that just the littlest bit. And of course, those pieces are totally optional. I just want to show you some ways to finish off your pieces so they look a little nicer. Like I said earlier, always sign your work. I'll talk more about finishing your pieces on the blog post this week. So we'll be making some more accessories to go with this, but more importantly and more exciting for me is we're going to make some things to decorate the fireplace area to fit the holidays, and you'll be able to use them either on this fireplace or a fireplace you already have in your dollhouse. So look forward to that. If you have any ideas for things you'd like to see me make, be sure and let me know, because I love to make things that you guys are requesting. Be sure and hop over to the blog post for lots more information and photographs. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure and leave a like and leave a comment. If you enjoyed my content and haven't subscribed, I encourage you to hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.